My mom has been the Prescott's housekeeper for 20 years. The first time I ever set foot in their house, I was dropping off something she'd forgotten. Their daughter was sitting on the floor, folding some guy's love letter into a paper airplane. She glanced up at me, the housekeeper's son, with a cool, dismissive look. Perfect. Help me with the trash. Later, the rumor went around campus that I was her She cornered me in a stairwell. Did you start that rumor? I just stared at the frayed hem of my shirt, my hands clenched, unable to look her in the eye. Then she leaned in, her lips close to my ear. So, what if we made it real? My mom has worked for the Prescott for 2 decades. I'd never been to their house, not until that Tuesday afternoon when she forgot her asthma inhaler. I rode my beat-up electric scooter, following the GPS to a neighborhood of sprawling estates. The security guard circled me 3 times with a metal detector wand before he finally waved me through. The Prescott mansion was blindingly white. Marble columns soared so high, I had to crane my neck to see the top. I clutched the plastic pharmacy bag with its cartoon logo, my feet feeling glued to the polished mahogany floors that reflected my face like a dark mirror. A woman in an apron hurried over, her voice a hushed whisper. "Keep it down. Miss Prescott is in the living room," she pointed. I peered around the corner. Through a massive floor-to-ceiling window, a girl sat on a thick wool rug. The afternoon sun turned her hair the color of warm honey. She wore a simple white sweater and gray sweatpants, surrounded by a mess of envelopes and stationery. She picked up a sheet of pink paper decorated with little hearts, scanned it, and then her fingers moved, folding it into a neat paper airplane. With a flick of her wrist, it sailed across the room, hit the rim of a wastebasket, and tumbled inside. She showed no emotion as she reached for the next one. "Is that?" I couldn't help but ask the woman beside me. She pursed her lips. "Love letters. Gets a pile every week. She treats them like junk mail." "Oh," I said, the plastic bag in my hand suddenly feeling heavier. Inside were the generic brand pills my mom had been taking for years. Just then, the girl looked up, and her gaze swept over me like a cold breeze. Her eyes were bright, her skin so pale, it was almost translucent. She took in my worn-out sneakers and the cheap plastic bag in my hand. "Who is he?" she asked, her voice chilly. The woman answered quickly. "Maria's son. He's here to drop off her medicine." The girl nodded, a flicker of understanding in her eyes. She lifted her chin slightly, gesturing toward the overflowing wastebasket. "Perfect. Help me with the trash." Then she looked back down, already folding another letter. It was like I was just a convenient mobile trash can that had wandered into her living room. I walked over to the wastebasket. I carefully packed all the rejected confessions, all those paper airplanes, into the same plastic bag I brought, right next to my mom's medication. Then I turned and walked out. Back on my scooter, the wind felt cold against my neck. I realized my shoulders had been tense the entire time. The second time I saw Serafina Prescott, it was on campus. It was a Friday in a big lecture hall for a university-wide elective. I slipped in just as class was supposed to start, finding a seat in the back row, trying to be invisible. The professor hadn't arrived yet, and the room was buzzing with conversation. Then the chatter by the doorway died down. A bunch of heads turned. I looked at Serafina was standing there in a simple black dress, a plain unbranded backpack slung over one shoulder. She scanned the room, her expression unreadable, like she was looking for something. Then she started walking toward me. I instinctively ducked my head, pretending to read the textbook open on my desk. The footsteps got closer, stopping at the empty seat right next to me. She sat down, set her bag on the floor, and took out a notebook and a fountain pen that looked like it cost more than my monthly groceries. She never even glanced at me. It was like she didn't recognize me at all. Good. I hunched my shoulders, trying to make myself smaller. The professor arrived and started his lecture, but I couldn't focus. It's hard to ignore someone like her sitting right beside you. She had a faint, clean scent, something cool and hard to place, but nice. She took notes meticulously, her fingers long and pale against the expensive pen. When the bell rang, I packed my bag, eager to disappear. "Hey," she closed her notebook and spoke. I froze, looking around to make sure she was talking to me. "Your name is Leo Evans?" she asked, her eyes on the name I'd written on the inside cover of my book. I nodded. "Yeah, Maria's son." "Yeah," she seemed to have confirmed whatever she needed to know. She stood up, grabbing her bag. "Save this seat for me from now on." She turned and left before I had a chance to say no. I just stared at her back as she disappeared through the door. My mind was completely blank. After that, every Friday, she'd show up and sit in the seat I saved. Sometimes she paid attention, taking notes. Other times, she'd just scrolled through her phone. She barely spoke. Occasionally, she'd ask, "Did he go over anything important last week? Or can I see your notes?" I'd hand them over, and when she gave them back, she'd murmur a quiet thanks. Her voice was still flat, but it sounded better than the first time I heard it. Once I forgot a pen. I was debating how to ask if I could borrow one when she glanced over, said nothing, and just handed me one from her pencil case. It was the expensive fountain pen. I panicked a little. "Oh, no, I don't need one this nice. Just take it," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Don't lose it. I wrote so carefully that class." My palms started to sweat. When the bell rang, she just packed up and left, forgetting I still had her pin. I chased after her, but she was already down the stairs. I ran to catch up, cutting her off at the bottom and holding it out. She looked at the pen, then at me, as if just remembering. "You can keep it for now," she said. "Bring it next week." "Okay," and just like that, she was gone. I stood there in the evening breeze, clutching the pen, feeling like I'd stumbled into some weird alternate reality. The rumors about Serafina Prescott were campus legend. She was the definition of untouchable. Gorgeous, ridiculously rich, and a strata student. The line of guys trying to ask her out could probably stretch from the lecture hall to the main gate. None of them ever succeeded. I heard a story about some trust fund kid who wouldn't leave her alone at a gala, insisting she have a drink with him right in front of his parents. She slowly poured a glass of red wine over his perfectly styled hair. The whole room went silent. She set the glass down and said, "Oops," my hand slipped. No one bothered her after that. She didn't seem to need friends either. She was always alone. So when she started sitting next to me, a guy, every single week, people started to notice. First, it was just whispers. Then, someone snapped a picture of us walking out of the building together and posted it to the campus confessions page. The caption read, "Ice Queen spotted with a mysterious new guy." The photo was blurry, but my faded denim jacket was unmistakable. The comments section exploded. "Who is that? Never seen him. Doesn't look like he's in the business school. His clothes look so cheap. Is he your new errand boy? Doubt it. When has Sarah ever let anyone get that close? Wait, could it be her boyfriend? No way. Absolutely not." I scrolled through the comments, my fingers going cold. My roommate leaned over my shoulder, nudging me. "Damn, Leo." Quietly taking down the queen of the castle, I pushed him away. "Shut up. We just have a class together." A class together. Serafina Prescott shares a class with someone. That's like saying the sun rises in the west. I knew I couldn't explain it, so I just went quiet. My stomach was in knots. I was terrified she'd see it and even more terrified of how angry she'd be. The next Friday, I got to class early and sat in our usual spot. My heart pounding. She arrived right on time, dropped her bag, and sat down as if nothing had happened. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Maybe she didn't look at that stupid page. Halfway through the lecture, she slid a note onto my desk. Her handwriting was neat, almost like a printed font. "Did you see the picture on the confessions page?" My stomach dropped. So she had seen it. I quickly wrote back, "I'm so sorry. I'll sit somewhere else from now on." She took the note, read it, her expression unchanged. Then she crumpled it into a ball and tossed it into the space under her desk. We didn't speak for the rest of the class. When the bell rang, she packed her things and stood up. I figured she was just going to leave, but she stopped beside my desk. "Let's go," she said. I looked up. Oh, she just looked at me. "It's Saturday tomorrow. My mom wants you to come over for dinner," she said flatly, like it was a business appointment. She added, "Maria's been asking about it." My mom had never mentioned a thing to me, but it didn't feel like I had a choice. "What time?" "I'll pick you up in the afternoon," she said, then added, as an afterthought, "I'll wait for you at the main gate." On Saturday afternoon, I put on my nicest button-down shirt, one I'd bought years ago that was now a little too tight. I was pacing nervously by the main gate, 10 minutes early. A black sedan glided to a silent stop in front of me. The window rolled down. Serafina was in the driver's seat, wearing sunglasses. "Get in," she said. I opened the passenger door and slid inside. The car was immaculate and smelled faintly of her perfume. She drove smoothly in complete silence. I didn't dare speak, just watched the city blur past my window. This time, we went through the front door. The dining room was massive, with a long table set with formal dinnerware. Serafina's mother was an elegant woman who looked much younger than she was. Her smile was polite but distant. "You must be Leo. Please sit. Maria is just finishing up in the kitchen." My mom came out carrying a tray of soup. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, but she quickly looked down and retreated back to the kitchen. "Maria, why don't you eat with us?" Serafina said suddenly. My mom waved her hands frantically. "Oh no, miss, you go ahead. I have food saved in the kitchen." Serafina didn't press her. The meal was quiet. Mrs. Prescott made small talk, asking about the food in the dining hall and if my classes were hard. I gave short, simple answers. Serafina barely ate and said nothing. After dinner, Mrs. Prescott excused herself. My mom was cleaning up in the kitchen. Serafina led me out to the backyard. It was huge, with a glass greenhouse at the far end. She leaned against the greenhouse door and looked at me. "Those rumors," she said, cutting straight to the point. "What do you think about them?" I was caught off guard by her directness. "They're just stupid rumors. I can try to clear things up." "Clear them up." The ghost of a smile touched her lips. "What's the point?" She looked down, fiddling with a leaf of a plant. "I have a proposal." I looked at her. "For now, let's not do anything about it," she said, her eyes meeting mine. "All the flies buzzing around me are annoying. You could be a useful shield." It took me a second to understand. "What?" "Let's pretend," she said, making it plain. I got it. She wanted me to pretend to be her boyfriend to get everyone else off her back. I felt a strange hollow feeling in my chest. Why me? I asked. She sized me up. Because you, she said, are the least likely person she would ever actually date. That made me safe. I wouldn't get any ideas. I understood perfectly. Okay, I heard myself say. She seemed surprised I agreed so easily and gave me a second look. It won't be for long, she said. And when we need to, I'll play along. Meaning in public, she'd put on a show. As if on cue, her phone rang. She glanced at it, then declined the call. Let's go, she said. I'll take you back. On the way back to campus, she took a call through the car's Bluetooth. A slick, oily male voice filled the car. Sarah, baby, how about dinner tonight? New French place just opened. I hear it's amazing. Serafina stared straight ahead. I'm busy. Come on. This is the 8th time I've asked. Do me a solid. I have plans. What plans? More important than me. Her fingers tapped on the steering wheel. She shot a quick glance at me. Then she spoke into the air. I'm with my boyfriend. The line went dead silent. After a few seconds, the voice erupted an octave higher. Boyfriend? Who? Since when? How come I don't know about this? Do you need to? Her tone was still cool. No, Sarah, come on. What loser is trying to move in on my territory? Serafina looked at me again. I sat up straighter. A tiny, almost inaudible laugh escaped her lips. She said into the silence. His name is Leo. He's nice. A little shy, so don't scare him. I could feel my ears burning as I clutched the seatbelt. The guy on the other end completely lost it, yelling something about not believing her and demanding to meet me. Serafina ignored him. I'm driving. Bye, she said, and ended the call. Silence returned to the car. My heart was still hammering against my ribs. That guy, she said, as if by way of explanation, is particularly persistent. As we neared the campus gate, she spoke again. This might happen again. Okay, I'll pay you by the hour, she said. You won't be doing this for free. I shook my head. You don't have to. She didn't argue. The car stopped across the street from the gate. I unbuckled my seatbelt. Thanks for the ride, I said. Ma'am. She grunted. I got out and closed the door. The car didn't move. I took a few steps and glanced back. The window was down. She was looking at me. Double quotes, next Friday. She said suddenly. Don't forget about class, she said. I won't. The car drove off. I stood there until its taillights vanished into the traffic, feeling like I just walked out of a very strange dream. The rumors didn't die down. They got worse because Serafina started playing along. In a crowded hallway after class, she'd ask loud enough for people to hear, "Where are we getting lunch?" Or, if we passed each other on the quad, she'd stop and wait for me to catch up. Her expression never changed, but it was enough to make anyone who saw stop and stare. Once a guy from my other classes saw us and whistled, yelling, "Looking good, Mrs. Evans." Serafina's gaze shot toward him, so cold it could have frozen him solid. The guy immediately shut up, his face turning pale. Then she looked back at me, her voice flat. "Let's go." I walked behind her, feeling 100 pairs of eyes drilling into my back. It felt weird, like I was an actor who'd been shoved into a role I hadn't rehearsed in a play about a relationship that wasn't real. But sometimes there were moments that felt different, like how she remembered my asthma gets triggered by spicy food. We were out with a group from class once, and someone ordered Nashville hot chicken for the table. She told the waiter to swap it for lemon herb chicken instead. When people teased her about being a controlling girlfriend, she didn't deny it. She just glanced at me. Another time, I had a bad cold and skipped class. That night, I got a text from her. Just 2 words. Took meds. I typed back, yeah, no reply. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was her. Come downstairs. I threw on a hoodie and went down. She was standing under a lamppost by the dorm entrance, holding a paper bag. 3 times a day. Instructions are inside, she said, handing me the bag, her face unreadable. Don't get me sick. I took the bag, my fingers brushing against hers. They were cold. Thanks, I said. She nodded and walked away, disappearing into the dark. I stood there looking at the bag. Inside was a collection of cold and flu medicine and a box of throat lozenges. I popped one in my mouth. It was sweet with a cool mint flavor that seemed to seep all the way down into my chest. In those moments, I thought maybe this isn't so bad, even if it's all fake. The thing that made it all spiral out of control was the annual university gala. My department had a chorus number, and I got roped into it. Serafina, as a student representative, had a solo violin performance. She wore a champagne-colored gown, standing alone in the spotlight, playing quietly. She was so beautiful she didn't look real. The entire auditorium was silent, filled only with the sound of her violin. I stood in the wings watching her, knowing with total certainty that we were from 2 different worlds. Her performance ended in a thunder of applause. I followed the rest of the chorus off the stage, trying to slip back to the dressing rooms through a side corridor. It was dark and crowded. Someone shoved me from behind, and I stumbled forward, bumping into the person in front of me. They turned around. It was Sir. She had just come off stage, her violin case in her hand. "Sorry," I mumbled, steadying myself. She shook her head, saying nothing. The crowd kept pushing, and she moved slightly. I instinctively moved to her side, shielding her from the people behind us. We were so close, I could smell the faint scent in her hair. She looked up at me. That one look in that one moment was captured by someone's phone. In the photo, I'm angled protectively over her. She's looking up at me. The lighting is dim. Her expression is hard to see, but the angle is shockingly intimate. The picture was posted to the confessions page with a blazing headline. It's official. Ice Queen's backstage gaze at her man. The comments went nuclear. Holy, it's real. That look, don't tell me there's nothing going on there. So, the princess is into the whole humble beginnings thing. He's kind of cute, but his clothes are awful. Maybe that's her type. I stared at my phone, a cold dread creeping through me. This was too far. She was definitely going to be furious. I was on edge all the next day. After my last class, she cornered me in an empty stairwell of the humanities building. Everyone else had gone home. It was quiet. She stood on the step above me, looking down, her expression a blank mask. "Leo," she said. My heart sank. This was it. "The photo?" she asked. "You saw it?" I nodded, my throat tight. "Yeah, I'm sorry. I had no idea someone was taking a picture." She didn't say anything, just kept looking at me. I clenched the warm fabric of my jeans, unable to meet her eyes. I waited for her to tell me to get lost, to announce that this whole stupid game was over. The only sound was the wind whistling through a crack in a window. After a long moment, I heard her take a soft breath. Then she stepped down onto my step closer. So close I could see the tiny flutter of her eyelashes. She leaned in, her voice a low whisper, laced with an emotion I couldn't name. "Hey, since it's already like this, why don't we—" She paused, her breath warm against my ear, making my skin tingle. "Make it real." I think I stood there for a full minute, maybe longer. My brain felt like a set of rusted gears grinding to a halt. Make it real. What did that even mean? Did she mean what I thought she meant? The motion sensor light in the stairwell clicked off, plunging us into darkness. I could hear her breathing close and steady. I took an involuntary half-step back, my shoulders hitting the cold concrete wall. "What?" My voice was a dry croak. The light flickered back on. She was still there watching me, her expression serious. There was no hint of a joke, no pressure. It was like she was proposing a logical solution to a complex problem. "The rumors have gone this far," she said. Her tone was clinical, as if she were analyzing market data. "The cost of a denial is too high. Besides," she added, pausing for a beat, "it probably wouldn't even work." I stared at her, searching that inscrutable face for any clue. "Why?" I had to ask again. This time, she didn't answer right away. She turned her head slightly, looking at the window at the end of the hall. The setting sun cast a hazy orange glow on her profile. Then she said, turning back to face me, "You're quiet. You don't annoy me." It was such a Serafina reason. And yet, something deep inside me shifted. Not because she liked me, but because I didn't annoy her. It was brutally logical. What would I have to do? I heard myself ask, implicitly agreeing to this insane proposition. She didn't seem surprised. "Nothing special," she said. "Same as before, only now, it's not fake anymore." She used the word real. I looked down at our elongated shadows on the floor, overlapping and intertwined. "Okay," I said. The word was soft, but in the silent stairwell, it was perfectly clear. She gave a slight nod. "Let's go," she said. "Dinner." She turned and started down the stairs. I followed. At the entrance to the building, a cool evening breeze hit us. She stopped and pulled her car keys from her bag. Then, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, she handed me her violin case. I took it. It was heavy. She didn't look at me, just walked toward the parking lot. I followed a few steps behind, clutching the expensive case, feeling a weight in my hands that had nothing to do with the violin. From that day on, my relationship with Serafina entered a strange kind of trial period. It was real, but it didn't feel much different from when it was fake. We still went to our elective together. She still had me save her a seat and would slide her notes over for me to copy. After class, we'd sometimes go to the dining hall or a small restaurant off campus. She was picky, but she'd never say it out loud. I just noticed she'd barely touch certain things. I slowly learned she hated cilantro and ginger and preferred her food bland. When we ordered, I started subconsciously avoiding those things. She noticed but didn't say anything. The next time, she just pushed the menu to me first. We still didn't talk much. A lot of our time together was spent in silence, but the silence had changed. Before, it was awkward, a measure of the distance between us. Now it felt comfortable, like a shared understanding, a thin veil you couldn't quite see through, but you knew was there. One Friday night, she was driving me back to campus. As we approached the gate, she asked suddenly, "Are you free tomorrow?" My heart skipped a beat. "Yeah," I replied. "Come with me somewhere," she said. "I need to pick something up." "Okay, Tana Main Gate." "Got it." The next day, I was there early. She pulled up right on time, driving a more discreet SUV today. Instead of heading downtown, we drove to a converted warehouse district on the west side of the city. There was a small independent bookstore there hosting a signing event. I was surprised. I never would have pegged her as the type to go to something like this. The store was full but quiet. She walked with purpose to a shelf in the corner and pulled out a slim volume of poetry with a simple, elegant cover. Then she got in line for the signing. I waited off to the side. When it was her turn, the author, an older woman with a kind smile, spoke with her for a few minutes. Serafina leaned in to listen, nodding occasionally. In that moment, the usual icy wall she had up seemed to melt away, and she looked almost sweet. She walked back over, the signed book in her hand, and gave it to me. Hold this. I took it, my fingers tracing the embossed title on the cover. You like poetry? I couldn't help asking. She glanced at me, just browsing. The sun was bright when we left the bookstore. She seemed to be in a good mood, her steps a little lighter. I'm hungry, she said. Let's find somewhere to eat. We found a clean-looking ramen shop in the same complex, and grabbed a table by the window. She ordered a simple bamboo shoot ramen. I got something similar. The bowls arrived, steaming. She ate in small neat bites, a light sheen of sweat forming on her forehead. The tip of her nose was a little pink. It was a completely different look from the perfectly composed Serafina I was used to. It was human. I grabbed a napkin and handed it to her. She paused, then took it. Thanks. After we finished, she pulled out her phone. How much was it? I'll Venmo you. I shook my head. Don't worry about it. It's on me. She froze, looking up at me. Her expression was complicated, as if I had just said something incredibly strange. We'll split it, she insisted, already opening the app. This one's on me, I said, and put my hand over hers to stop her. Her hand was cool, her skin smooth. We both froze. It was the first time I had ever initiated contact. I snatched my hand back like I had been burned. It's just a bowl of ramen, I mumbled, looking away. She didn't insist again. She put her phone away. After a few seconds of silence, she said, next time, it's my treat. Next time came quickly. A few days later, she texted me. There was a party at her house, and she needed me there. Boyfriend duties, she added. It seemed even a real relationship still required an actor. I stared at the pathetic collection of clothes in my closet for a long time before settling on my usual light blue button-down. It was a little faded from too many washes, but at least it wasn't wrinkled. That evening, she picked me up at the gate. She looked me up and down but didn't say anything. A few blocks later, though, she pulled over in front of a high-end mall. Get out, she said. What's wrong? We're buying you a suit. I blinked. You don't have to. I started to refuse. I do, she said, her tone final. You need to look appropriate for an event like this. A gentle way of putting it. I followed her into a men's clothing store I would never have dared to enter on my own. The lights were blindingly bright, and the numbers on the price tags made my head spin. She clearly knew the place, speaking quietly to a sales associate who quickly returned with a dark gray suit. Try it on, she said, nodding toward the fitting room. I took the clothes, the fabric feeling alien in my hands. When I came out, she was sitting on a leather couch, flipping through a magazine. She looked up, and her eyes lingered on me for a few seconds. That'll work, she said, closing the magazine. She turned to the associate. This one. Cut the tags. He'll wear it out. Wait, I said quickly. How much is it? I can, ... She was already pulling out a black credit card. Put it on my account. No, that's way too expensive, I said, starting to panic. She looked at me, her expression calm. It's a costume, a work expense. That shut me up. I sat in the passenger seat in a new suit, feeling completely out of my skin. Every thread seemed to whisper that I didn't belong in it. The party was at a private country club. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, men and women in designer clothes. The second I walked in, I felt like a stray dog that had wandered into a purebred dog show. Serafina, however, was in her element. She took my arm, the gesture so smooth and practiced it felt like she'd done it 100 times. Just stick with me, she murmured, a perfect polite smile on her face. I nodded stiffly. She led me around, introducing me to people. Uncle David, Aunt Catherine, this is my boyfriend Leo. She said it so casually, so directly. Their eyes would sweep over me like searchlights, full of appraisal and curiosity. I just tried to keep my face neutral, nodding, smiling, and saying, nice to meet you. My palms were sweating the whole time. Someone asked jokingly, Sarah, when did you get a boyfriend? You kept this one quiet. Serafina smiled, a rare, playful glint in her eyes. Well, I had to bring him for your approval, didn't I? She was a much better actor than I was. At one point, I escaped to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. I looked at the guy in the mirror, wearing an expensive suit, but unable to hide the anxious look in his eyes. It was pathetic. When I got back to the ballroom, I saw Serafina talking to a young guy in a loud pink shirt, his hair slicked back with too much gel. He was trying to put his arm around her shoulder. Serafina smoothly sidestepped him, her expression turning glacial. I walked over quickly. Sarah, I said. Her eyes flickered toward me, and she immediately moved closer to my side. The guy in the pink shirt looked me up and down with open contempt. Well, this must be the famous Leo, he drawled mockingly. That's me, I said, stepping slightly in front of Sarah. So, what do you work? What does your family do? he asked, with a condescending smirk. My jaw tightened. Spencer, Serafina said, her voice like ice. Does my boyfriend need to report his life story to you? She linked her arm through mine, squeezing it tight. We have to go. Excuse us. She pulled me away, leaving him standing there. I could feel his glare on my back. We went out to a terrace. It was empty. The cool night air smelled like flowers. She let go of my arm and leaned against the railing, letting out a long breath. Thanks for that, she said. It's nothing. I looked out at the city lights. That guy, an idiot. She cut me off. Forget him. We were quiet for a moment. Then she asked, is this exhausting for you? I shook my head. I'm fine. You'll get used to it, she said, staring into the distance, her profile soft in the dim light. There will be more nights like this. More. That word did something to me. Okay, I said. Near the end of the night, we met her father. He was an imposing man with sharp eyes that seemed to stay on me a little too long. He only said a few words, but the pressure was immense. When we left, Serafina draped her expensive cashmere shawl over my shoulders. Put this on. It's cold out, she said. Aren't you cold? I have a coat in the car. On the drive back, I leaned against the window, exhausted. Schmoozing in a suit was more tiring than a full day of manual labor. The car stopped at the campus gate. I unbuckled my seatbelt and went to give her the shawl back. Keep it, she said. You can give it to me next time. I got out. As her taillights disappeared, I turned and started walking back to my dorm. The campus was quiet. I was walking in a suit I couldn't afford, wrapped in a shawl that smelled like her. It felt like I was walking on clouds, unsteady, unreal, but unable to resist the dizzying, fraudulent height. After the party, something changed. She started finding more reasons for me to help. It wasn't just about needing a shield anymore. Sometimes, it was, I was driving past your campus. Want to grab dinner? Other times, it was, I have an extra movie ticket. Don't want it to go to waste. Once she even said she bought 2 boxes of limited edition pastries and couldn't finish them. So I had to help her out. I brought the beautifully packaged box back to my dorm, and my roommate teased me relentlessly. Another gift from the princess. Damn, Leo, things are moving fast. Huh? When are you buying us dinner? I brushed him off, but inside I felt like I was walking a tightrope. This wasn't normal. She was being too nice to me. Nicer than a useful prop could explain. But I was afraid to think about it too much. Afraid I was reading it all wrong, that I was setting myself up for a fall. So I just told myself to play along and not take any of it seriously. That Friday after our class, it started pouring. A crowd of students without umbrellas was stranded at the entrance of the building. She glanced at the downpour, then pulled out her phone. Wait here, I'll have the car brought around. You don't have to, I said. I can just run for it. My dorm isn't far. She ignored me and made the call. A few minutes later, the black sedan pulled up to the curb. Get in, she said, holding the door open. I hesitated for a second, then climbed in. The heat was on, and it felt good. She used a tissue to wipe a few raindrops from her arm, then handed one to me. Thanks. The car pulled away from campus, but not in the direction of my dorm. Where are we going? I asked. My apartment, she said, her eyes on the road. Her tone was casual. It's closer. We can wait out the rain there. My heart started beating, a little faster. I didn't know if that was a good idea. Why not? She glanced at me. I live alone. I didn't say anything else. Just fiddled with the seatbelt. Her apartment building was sleek and modern, with tight security and a lobby so bright it hurt my eyes. The elevator rose silently to the penthouse level. When she opened the door, motion sensor lights turned on automatically. The place was huge, decorated in a minimalist black, white, and gray palette. It was clean, to the point of feeling sterile, but the view was insane. An entire wall was a window looking out over the city lights, with rain streaking down the glass. Slippers, she said, pulling a new pair of men's slippers from a cabinet. I put them on, feeling awkward standing on the polished concrete floor. Make yourself at home, she said, tossing her coat onto the sofa. Want something to drink? Anything's fine. She went to the open-plan kitchen and got me a bottle of water from the fridge. She poured herself a glass of red wine. She leaned against the kitchen island, swirling the wine, and watched the rain. I sat on the couch holding the cold water bottle, unsure what to say. The silence felt charged. Do you bring people here often? The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. It was way over the line. She turned, studied me for a few seconds, and the corner of her mouth twitched. You're the first. My heart skipped a beat. She came over and sat on the other end of the couch, leaving a careful distance between us. It's usually so loud here, she said. The rain is nice. We sat in silence for a while, just listening to the storm. Her glass of wine slowly emptied. She got up and poured another. When she came back, she sat a little closer. Leo, she said. Yeah, what do you think we are right now? She asked, staring into the swirling liquid in her glass. My throat went dry. Which answer was she looking for? The fake one or the real one? I don't know, I said, choosing the safest option. She let out a soft, unreadable laugh. I think I'm a little drunk, she said, her voice softer than usual. She set her glass down and suddenly leaned toward me. The faint scent of wine mixed with her perfume surrounded me. I instinctively leaned back until my shoulders hit the sofa cushions. She braced her hands on either side of me, trapping me. We were so close, I could see the flutter of her eyelashes and the reflection of my own panicked face in her dark eyes. "Serafina," my voice was hoarse. She murmured, her gaze dropping to my lips. Then she kissed me. It tasted of the bitter sweetness of red wine, and it was surprisingly firm, almost demanding. My mind went completely blank. All the blood in my body rushed to my head. It was an awkward kiss, clumsy and urgent, nothing like the cool, controlled person I knew. It was over in a second. She pulled back slightly, her breathing a little unsteady. Her eyes were bright, watching me, gauging my reaction. I was frozen, unable to process what had just happened. She seemed disappointed by my lack of response, her brow furrowing slightly. Then she leaned in and kissed me again, harder this time, deeper. Her hand came up to my shoulder, her fingertips cool against my neck. I felt like a fish gasping for air, all my resistance gone, able to do nothing but accept it. A voice in my head was screaming, "This is just part of the act. Another performance," but my body's reaction was terrifyingly real. My heart felt like it was going to beat its way out of my chest. When she finally pulled away, I was panting slightly. She looked at my flushed face and stunned expression, her eyes darkening. She touched her own lips lightly with her fingertips. "Not bad," she commented, her voice regaining some of its usual coolness, though a flicker of heat remained in her eyes. I scrambled to my feet. "The rain? It looks like it's letting up. I should go." She didn't try to stop me. She just watched me. "I'll drive you." "No, I'll get a taxi." I practically ran out of her apartment. It wasn't until I was in the back of an Uber with the cold night air blowing through the open window that I could breathe properly again. My lips still tingled with the memory of her kiss and the taste of wine. I scrubbed my mouth with the back of my hand, but I couldn't wipe away the chaos churning inside me. For the next few days, I avoided I skipped our elective and ignored her texts. I had no idea how to face her. What did that kiss mean? Was it a drunken mistake? A game she was playing? Or for her, was it just another necessary step to make it real? I couldn't figure it out, so I ran. On Friday afternoon, I was leaving the library when she blocked my path. She was leaning against her black car, arms crossed, watching me. She'd clearly been waiting. "Are you avoiding me?" she asked, straight to the point. "No," I mumbled, looking at the ground. "Why did you skip class?" "I had something to do." "Why didn't you answer my texts?" "I didn't see them." She was silent for a few seconds. "Get in the car." She opened the door. "I have to get in," she repeated, her tone leaving no room for argument. I got in. The silence in the car was heavy. She didn't start the engine, just tapped her fingers on the steering wheel. "Leo," she said, "look at me." I forced myself to turn and meet her gaze. "Did the kiss make you uncomfortable?" she asked directly. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. "If you didn't like it," she continued, her voice as calm as if she were discussing the weather, "you can just say so. It won't happen again." My chest tightened. "It's not that I didn't like it," I managed to say, my voice low. "Then, what is it?" she pressed. I couldn't answer. It was fear. Fear that this was all just a game to her, and I was going to end up being the punchline. She watched me for a long moment, then sighed, a barely audible breath. "I'm not very good at this," she said. Her gaze shifted to the street ahead, her voice holding a rare hint of hesitation. "But when I make a decision, I'm not joking. When I said we should make it real, I meant it. I want to try." My heart stopped, then started racing. "Try with me." "Why me?" I asked the same stupid question again. She was quiet for a moment. "Because," she said slowly, "you're the only person I don't have to be Serafina Prescott around. The untouchable Aries, the perfect daughter. Around me, she could just be a little tired, a little impulsive, maybe even a little clumsy." Her words were like a stone dropped into a deep lake, sending ripples all the way through me. I just stared at her. She seemed uncomfortable having said so much, her lips pressing into a thin line, the tips of her ears turning pink. "Do you get it now?" she asked, looking back at me. She tried to reclaim her cool demeanor, but her eyes gave away her nervousness. I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. "Good," she said, starting the car. "Let's get something to eat." And so we really started to try. It was different, closer. She started waiting for me after my classes to eat in the dining hall. On weekends, she'd sometimes ask me to go with her to a book fair or to see some old obscure movie. She still didn't talk a lot, but she started sharing small things about how hard it was learning the violin as a kid, how her fingers would bleed, about how she hated all those boring galas. She even took me to her mother's art studio once. Her mother, an elegant but aloof artist, just gave us a polite nod and didn't ask any questions. As we were leaving, Serafina let out a quiet sigh of relief. She didn't object, she told me. That means she approves. Seeing the small smile on her face, some of my own insecurity started to fade, but I never forgot the chasm between our worlds. Whenever she bought me something, I tried to pay her back in other ways. Treating her to dinner or finding a rare book I thought she might like. She stopped trying to pay for everything. and I noticed she put the books I gave her on the most prominent shelf in her apartment. Life went on like that, quiet and strange, until my mom called me one day sobbing. She said the Prescotts were firing her. They accused her of stealing jewelry from Mrs. Prescott. My world tilted. I immediately skipped my classes and rushed over. My mom was in her small room crying, her bags already packed. She kept insisting she didn't steal anything, that she had no idea how Mrs. Prescott's diamond brooch ended up under her pillow. Mrs. Prescott was sitting in the living room, her face a cold mask. Standing next to her was Spencer, the guy in the pink shirt, a smug look on his face. "Maria, we've treated you like family," Mrs. Prescott said, her voice dripping with disappointment. "How could you do this?" "Ma'am, I swear, I didn't. I would never," my mom stammered, too upset to form a sentence. I stepped in front of my mom. "There has to be a misunderstanding," I said, looking at Mrs. Prescott. "My mom has worked here for 20 years. She's never done anything like this. The evidence is clear. What misunderstanding could there be?" Spencer cut in, his voice oily. "Are you saying we framed her? It's just a brooch. If Maria liked it, she should have just said so. I would have bought her 10 of them. No need to steal." I was shaking with anger, but had no way to fight back. Just then, Serafina walked in. She was out of breath, like she'd rushed home. She took in the scene and walked directly to her mother. "Mom, is this settled?" "Serafina, what are you doing home? Stay out of this." "Maria works for me," Serafina said, her voice quiet but firm. "If she says she didn't steal it, she didn't steal it." Spencer chuckled. "Sarah, baby, I know you're fond of her, but you can't just cover for a thief." Serafina's eyes snapped to him. "Spencer," she said, her voice freezing him in place. "When did my family's business become your concern?" His face fell and he shut his mouth. Serafina turned back to her mother. "Let's call the police." Everyone stared at her. "Serafina," Mrs. Prescott frowned in disapproval. "If we can't agree, let the police figure it out," Serafina said, pulling out her phone. "I'm sure they'll clear Maria's name." Her thumb hovered over the call button. "Wait," Spencer blurted out, sweat beading on his forehead. Maybe I was mistaken. The brooch could have just fallen somewhere." Serafina stared him down. "Oh, a minute ago, you said the evidence was clear," Spencer stammered, his eyes darting around the room. Mrs. Prescott's face hardened as she realized what had happened. In the end, Spencer remembered wrong and the brooch was found. Mrs. Prescott told Spencer to leave, then turned to my mom and said, "I'm sorry for the trouble," before disappearing upstairs. My mom clutched Serafina's hands, thanking her over and over. Serafina just patted her arm gently. "It's okay now, Maria. Get some rest." She walked me out, standing outside the mansion. The evening wind felt cool. I was still shaken. "Thank you," I said, looking at her. "If it weren't for you, it wasn't me." She cut me off, her eyes clear and bright. "It was you? Me? You're my boyfriend," she said, as if it were the most obvious fact in the world. "So when they mess with your mom, they're messing with me." She was telling everyone in no uncertain terms that my mom and I were under her protection. My heart felt like it was going to burst, aching with a feeling I couldn't name. And she added, her voice dropping a little, "I know what you worry about. Are you feeling a little more secure now?" She saw right through all my insecurities, all my feelings of inadequacy. And with one move, she gave me her answer. I looked at this girl, so cool and strong, yet so endearingly clumsy in her own way. In that moment, impulse won out over reason. I stepped forward and wrapped my arms around her. Her whole body went rigid, clearly surprised. But then she relaxed and her arms came up to hesitantly hug me back. Her hair tickled my chin. "Serafina," I whispered her name. "Are we real now?" She was quiet in my arms for a few seconds. "What do you think?" she murmured back. I held her tighter, feeling like I was holding my entire world. I thought things would just continue like that. She and I would keep walking down this path, trying one step at a time like any normal couple. Then came that weekend. We went to a late movie, and it was after midnight when we got out. She drove me back to campus. The car was quiet, but it was a comfortable silence. At a red light, she reached over and took my hand. Her fingers were cool and soft. I laced mine with hers. The corner of her mouth turned up in a slight smile. As we neared the campus gate, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the caller ID, her expression hardening. She silenced the call. "Who is that?" I asked. "No one," she said, her voice clipped. The phone buzzed again. This time, she shut it off completely. "Annoying," she muttered. She pulled up across the street. I unbuckled my seatbelt but didn't get out right away. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Are you okay?" I was worried. "Of course," she said, forcing a smile. "Go on. It's late." I nodded and got out. I stood on the sidewalk and watched her car disappear before I turned to walk back to my dorm. As I stepped into the shadows of the main gate, two figures grabbed me from either side. Leo Evans. A rough voice grunted, "You're coming with us." Panic shot through me. I tried to break free, but they held me tight, shoving something in my mouth and dragging me toward an unmarked van. As I struggled, a sharp pain exploded at the back of my neck, and everything went black. I woke up in an abandoned warehouse. My hands were tied behind my back, my mouth sealed with duct tape. The only light came from a single grimy bulb hanging in the distance. A few figures stood nearby smoking. Spencer's really going all out for some broke college kid. He messed with the wrong girl. Did he really think he had a shot with a Prescott? Just got to rough him up a little. Make him understand his place. Spencer, my fear turned to rage. I thrashed against the ropes, but it was useless. I don't know how much time passed before I heard the screech of tires outside, followed by shouting. The warehouse doors burst open with a deafening crash. Blinding headlights flooded the space. A slim, sharp silhouette stood in the light, holding something that looked like a tire iron. Behind her were several large, imposing men. "Where is he?" I heard Serafina's voice. It was arctic, laced with a fury I had never heard before. "In there," one of the kidnappers stammered, clearly having been on the receiving end of her fury already. She strode in, her eyes scanning the warehouse like daggers, finally landing on me. The second she saw me, all the tension in my body drained away. She rushed to my side, her fingers fumbling as she ripped the tape from my mouth. They were ice cold and trembling slightly. "It's okay," she said, her voice low but incredibly firm, her eyes locked on mine. "I'm here." She untied my hands, and when she saw the raw red marks on my wrists, her expression turned murderous. She helped me up, pulling me behind her as she faced the men who were now paralyzed with fear. "Who touched him?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. No one spoke. She pointed at one of them. "You. Which hand did you use?" The man flinched. One of her bodyguards stepped forward and grabbed the man's arm. A sickening crack and a scream echoed through the warehouse. Serafina didn't even blink. She pulled out her phone and made a call. "Mr. Lee," she said on the phone, her voice like steel. "Control your son. He touched what's mine. If it happens again, I can't guarantee he'll walk out of the police station in one piece." She hung up and, without another glance at the man on the floor, guided me out of the warehouse. Her car was parked right outside, the engine still running. She put me in the passenger seat and got in, her face ghostly pale in the dashboard light. Her lips were pressed into a thin white line, her eyes still burning with rage. She slammed the car into gear and floored it. We shot out onto the road, the engine screaming. She drove with terrifying speed, like she was trying to outrun the devil. I had never seen her like this, fierce, violent, and completely out of control. It scared me. I gripped the seatbelt, my knuckles white. She finally screeched to a halt by a deserted riverbank and slammed her fist against the steering wheel. Her chest was heaving, her breathing ragged. The silence in the car was absolute. After a long time, her breathing evened out. She turned to look at me, her eyes a storm of fear, anger, and some other powerful emotion I couldn't decipher. "Leo," she said, her voice raw. "Yeah, marry me." I was sure I'd heard her wrong. "What?" I said. "Marry me," she repeated, her tone deadly serious with a desperate, all-or-nothing finality. Now, tonight, my mind was a static hum. "Marriage now. Are you just scared?" I stammered, trying to find a rational explanation. "I'm okay. Really, you don't have to do this. This isn't an impulse." She cut me off, her hand gripping my wrist. "I've never been more certain about anything. The only way I can be sure you're safe is if you're legally mine, right here by my side. So those pathetic animals never get the chance to touch you again." Her voice was trembling with a terrifying obsessive edge. I looked into her eyes and saw a wild, almost manic light burning there. I finally understood this wasn't a proposal. It was a decree, a declaration of ownership and protection delivered in the most extreme way possible. It was her way of cutting off every escape route I might have ever had. I looked at her, this wild, unfamiliar girl who had just gone to war for me. A feeling of profound absurdity washed over me, mixed with a strange, undeniable thrill. I knew it was crazy, insane, but looking into her eyes, seeing the raw fear beneath the unyielding command, I heard myself nod. "Okay." A wave of relief washed over her face, and she sagged back in her seat as if a great weight had been lifted. "Leo," she whispered in my ear, her voice laced with a possessive, almost pathological need. "You're mine now. No one is ever taking you away from me."